Hi everybody, I'm Roz and I'm the artist behind North Mayo Fine Arts. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to blend and layer pencils in a bit more detail. So I've got this sheet here that's got a lot of different circles and lines on it. Now the top row I've done in circular motions, which you hear me talk about all the time. So each one of these have all been coloured just a single layer in circular motions. The line below that is all done in straight lines, so you can see the difference. You can see the difference straight away from one of them that's been done in circular motions and one that's been done in straight line. What I want to show you is how each of these circles and lines actually blend together using different materials, different supplies. Now, some of them are proper blending equipment that you'd get in an art store, and some of them are just things that you'd find in the house. So we'll go through them each as we're working along the line. So I'm actually going to start with tissue paper. So any type of tissue, any toilet roll, kitchen towel roll, that kind of thing, just something that's soft. And you want to fold it until you get quite a thick-ish bend, because this is the area we're actually going to be blending the pencil with. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to actually start with the top area, which is the circular motions. Then I'm going to move down to the bottom area to show you the difference. And then I'm also going to be doing some layering. So we're going to start with the tissue. So what I'm going to do is I'm built it up to this, so it's quite a thick edge there, and I'm just going to put it down on the paper, and as you can see I'm actually blending it in circular motions as well. So I'm going round this circle, round the outside edge first, and then go round again, just working my way into the middle. So there you go, that's the first one blended with the tissue. Now as you can see on the tissue, little bits of the tissue are already starting to lift, which is one of the downsides to using tissue. So now I'm going to go down to the bottom one, and I'm going to be blending this one, but instead of doing a circular motion this time I'm going to be blending in a straight line to show you the difference. So again I'm going to use the same area, and I'm going to come onto this piece, and I'm just going to go up and down. There you go. And you can see that you can actually still make out the pencil lines with the tissue paper. Even blending with the tissue paper, you can still see that there's straight lines there. So if I now get a slightly darker pencil, and what I'm wanting to do is I'm just going to apply some of this pencil. I'm applying the pencil in circular motions to the top one. I'm only going to do that amount because we don't want to be sitting here all day watching me do this. So I'm going to apply some of the darker colour now in straight up and down lines, which is the same as the initial layer at the bottom. And I'm now going to come back in with my tissue paper again, and I'm going to go around and over the darker portion, going in circular motions. Can you see how it's smoothed it very nicely? It's blended it very nicely as well. So I'm going to go up and down in straight lines again with this one. And you can see there that you can still make out the very definite pencil marks So there's a big difference between working in circular motions and working in straight lines. But you can see how nicely the top one has blended, and the bottom one, you can still see the lines on it, but you can't actually see any definite lines up on this one. So I'm now going to move on to a cotton wool ball or cotton swab. So this is what I'm going to be using next. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to scrunch it up until we get quite a nice solid section there, which is what the area we're going to blend with. So I'm going to come over the cotton wool ball and I'm going to blend this and again I'm going in circular motions, which is what I always do when I'm layering my pencil with circular motions. So I've gone over that whole shape now with the cotton wool. You can see it's not blended out as well as the tissue paper one. So I'm going to start blending the bottom one now, and I'm going to go up and down like I did before. And you can see that hasn't blended very well either. Excuse me. So what I'm going to now do is I'm going to apply some of the darker colour again. That'll be enough for that side. And I'm going to come along down here just with that much. So again, I'm scrunching the cotton wool up and I'm just going to go in circular motions. And you can see it's not blended out as nicely as the tissue, but it is blending, and you can't see very many actual pencil marks at all. So now I'm going to come down to the bottom and I'm going to go up and down again. And you can still definitely see the pencil marks there. So the cotton wool ball isn't the best one looking at it. So now I'm going to move on to a cotton bud or a Q-tip, and I am going to do the same thing again. So I'm still blending in circular motions, and you can see that that one's not blended out too well. So I'm now going to come down to the bottom one and I'm going to go up and down. And you can see that doesn't want to blend very well at all. You can also see that the cotton bud is becoming very flat, and some of the actual cotton is starting to lift a little bit, and it's taken a lot of colour with it but hasn't actually moved it around on the paper very well. So again, I'm going to come to this section like this, and then I'm going to go up and down here like this again, and then back with the Q-tip. Now I'm actually going to use the other side of the Q-tip now, because this side is actually flattened down quite a lot, so I know it wouldn't work properly, so I'm going to come with the other side and I'm now going to blend. Again, circular motions. the same as the way the pencil's been laid down, because that way we don't get any harsh pencil lines. Like that. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to try and blend this, which is failing miserably. So we can see that the Q-tip doesn't actually work very well at all, and as you can see actually on the Q-tip it's taken a good bit of the pencil off and hasn't actually made much of a difference on the paper at all. So we're now going to move on to a homemade blending stump. This is the one that I've made at home, and I will put a card up to my video showing how to make handmade blending stumps. So this is the one I'm going to use today, and it was homemade by myself just using printer paper. So we're going to come onto here. So I'm going to start up here. Now I initially made the video about how to make a blending stump because I live in a very remote area and there's no craft shops anywhere near us. The nearest one's about 50 miles away, so as much as I love online shopping, it was quite frustrating when I wanted to buy a couple of blending stumps that were only €1, €2 each, and having to spend €5 or €6 postage. It just seemed to be a complete and utter waste of money. So I decided to make my own, and that is how the video came about. So you can see there it's blended it quite nicely. It's given it a nice smooth finish, and you can't see the pencil lines, but it's blended nicely. So I'm now going to come down to the bottom and I'm going to do a similar thing, but I'm going to go up and down again. Now you can see there it has blended quite nicely. You can still see some of the pencil marks at the top and the bottom, but the pencil marks in the middle seem to have faded a good bit with the blending stump. So I'm going to do the same thing as I've done with the rest of them, and I am just going to come along around the right hand side and just add some pencil. Come over. Now one thing about the blending stumps is that they do need to be cleaned quite often, which involves either some sandpaper or a nail file, anything that's got a rough texture that you could actually just take off the very top layer of the paper to clean it up nicely. So I'm going to come in again, and I'm now blending where that second layer of pencil was put on. There we go. That has actually blended out really nicely. You can't see the sharp edge where the lighter purple and the darker purple meet. It's just a nice soft blend. So now I'm going to come down to this one again, and we're going up and down for this one. I'm sorry if I'm repetitive. I repeat myself quite a lot for anybody that's completely new, that doesn't know what they're doing, that needs step-by-step instructions. I remember when I started drawing, and there was no tutorials online or anywhere else for that matter that I could work from, so I had to do it all myself. So I know how much people enjoy actually having hands-on tutorials. So that's the homemade blending stump, and as you can see, it's given a really nice blend up here, so the two colours are actually blended in really seamlessly there, and this one's blended in as well, but there's still, you can still see a little bit of the graininess of the paper, which I don't like. So I'm now going to move on to a Shopbot blending stump. This one's from Noir, and again, these should be cleaned really before you use them for a different colour. But just for the sake of this, it's only a demonstration. So this is now the normal blending stump. So again, I'm going to come in and I'm going to blend it. If any of you have got any questions about any aspects of my work or any of my videos, please feel free to contact me. You can contact me either on YouTube under my video, or you can find me on Facebook under Noir Fine Art. You can email northmayorfineart@gmail.com, or you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. So there you go, you can see that that's blending quite nicely. Now there's a couple of pencil marks left at the top, but they're very easy to blend out, and I'm not actually putting much pressure down at all. I'm keeping it very, very soft and very light hand. So that's the circular one. So we'll now go up and down the straight lines. There we go. So now I'm going to come over again with this pencil. Now when I'm adding the second layer of pencil, I'm not applying any pressure whatsoever. I'm holding it quite a long way up the actual, up the pencil itself, and I am not using much pressure at all, because for blending and layering you need to keep the tooth of your paper, and if you push down too hard you will burnish the tooth of the paper, and then there'll be nothing for any other pencil to cling on to. So going up and down here again. So I'm just going to pull this over a little bit so you can see. There we go. So just going up and down in a straight line. And that one's been done with circular motions as before. So now I'm going to come in again, and you can hold your blending stump in different ways. Depending on the size of the piece I'm working on, I sometimes hold it like this, because then I've got much better control of the actual tip of the stump, or you can use it as a normal pencil and hold it the normal way. So I am going to, now holding it this way doesn't mean I need to add more pressure to it, because I'm hardly adding any pressure at all. I'm just holding the pencil or the stump onto the paper for it to blend. So there is the circular one, and as you can see it's giving a really nice soft blend again. So now I'm going to come up and down this one. As you can see, there's still a few pencil marks on there, but it's blended out quite nicely, but you can still see the pencil, which is not great. So I am now going to move on to the silicone colour shaper. Now these are fantastic, and these are my new go-to blending tools. Now I still use blending stumps, don't get me wrong, but I don't use them as often now as I use this. This is actually made from silicone, and it's very, very pliable. Now I've actually got a few different ones. So this one's the smallest size that I've got. You can get them anything from a 0 to a 6, I think it is. So this is the smallest one, this is a 0. And I've also got sizes 2. Now you can get them in several different shapes as well on the actual lens. And this one's a 6, so it's a really big one, so you can see the difference in sizes. And the difference, the reason why there's the ends, the tips of them are actually different colours is because they're different levels of hardness, if that's a word. So the white or cream ones are very, very soft, then the grey ones are slightly firmer, and then there is some very, very dark grey ones, which are obviously the hardest ones. So these were originally created for people that work in ceramics, clay, that kind of thing, and they use them as shaping tools. But artists have actually found these relatively recently, and they are incredible for pencil. So I now recommend these to anybody that's looking for ideas for the tools that you can actually blend with. So I'm going to use this flat one for the blending, and I'm going to come in and use the flat section on the paper. Now it doesn't matter whether you do it very low down or whether you do it quite high up, it will still blend nicely. So I'm just going around. So you can see that's blended quite nicely. I'm going to come down to the bottom. Now this one I would go up and down this way if I was going to use the colour shapers, because you can get much more control of them if you're pushing backwards and forwards in line with the end of the pencil. So you can see that they're blended quite nicely. So I'm now going to come through again, and I'm going to add some of the darker pencil. Like that. So I've added some more of the darker colour. So now I'm going to come in again with the blending stump, and I'm going to blend it out. Now you might find it easier to work in straight lines when using the blending stumps, but I like to actually use them in the same direction as the pencil. I will put a link up in the video description to tell you where the best places are to get these colour shapers. I'm going to come down again, and I'm going to do what I did last time, which is going up and down following the pencil rather than going against it. You could go against it this way, but always make sure that the silicone section of the stump is always moving in the direction. You won't want to be holding it here, going up and down like that, because that's going to damage it. So you need to always try and have them the right way up. Now again, you can still see the pencil lines there, but this is blended out nicely here. So now the last one that I've got here is pencil. So what I mean is actually blending the pencil using the pencil rather than using a tool. So you can see I've completed the first layer of the purple here and here. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to add a layer of the darker purple. I'm only going to do half of it, just to show you quickly how I would do this. Like that. And then I'm going to come down and do the same down here like I've done with the rest of them. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the lighter shade of purple that I actually put down with the base layer, and I'm going to come in with this one, and I'm actually going to go over the edge where the two colours meet, but I'm using a circular motion at all times. I'm actually going over all of the darker purple, because that blends it in beautifully when you add another shade of purple to it. Now, there is the circle. And I'm going to continue with this bottom one. Yeah. And then to blend this in really nicely, I'm actually going to come along now and I'm going to put a third layer down. I'm going to come down this one as well, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing, and it is just adding a little bit more colour onto this shape, like this. So now I'm going to come back in with my light pencil, and I'm just going to very gently go over and go over this again. And there you go. So you can see that actually blending with a pencil gives you a really, really nice effect. It means that you don't need to have any tools or any supplies, you just actually need to have your pencils. So pencils, depending on which brand you use obviously. I mean, I'm using Faber-Castell Polychromos today. Obviously, depending on which pencils you use will depend on the quality of the pencil that comes out and onto your paper. And just go over that one last time. So there you go. So you can see how the pencil's actually blended out really nicely, and the pencil gives it a much more vibrant tone because you need to add more pencil in order to blend them in nicely. So just to recap, we have the tissue paper one, which actually worked really nicely and gave it a beautiful soft blend, and actually worked nicely on the straight lines as well. Didn't completely get rid of the pencil lines, but definitely helped. The cotton wool ball didn't really do very much at all, and you can definitely still see lines on both of the examples. The Q-tip or cotton bud, again, not great blending. You can definitely still see the pencil lines in the bottom one, and the top one doesn't look very well blended either. The homemade blending stump gives a nice blend, a nice soft blend. You can't see any specific pencil lines in the circular motions, and the lines at the bottom, you can still see some of them, but it's still giving quite a nice blend. The normal blending stump works okay. It hasn't worked as well as it could have done, and you can definitely still see the pencil lines down here. The Silicone Colour Shaper is a really nice blender. On this example you can still see a couple of the lines, but that's because I was kind of trying to speed it up a little bit. And this one you can definitely still see the lines, and the pencil is just seamless blending. It's just absolutely brilliant. You can't see any lines, you can't actually see a very definite join point where the darker and the lighter pencils met. Even on the line one at the bottom, you can't actually see a definitive line where either of the colour mixed together. So they're all the different materials that you can use and the different ways of blending. What I want to do now is I want to come up to this circle here, because I want to add some layers to this so that you can actually see me blending just a specific area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a different colour shaper, and I'm going to get the Shopbot blending stump as well. So I'm going to use these two to help me. I'm also going to be blending with just the pencils themselves. So I've already made a start. I've got the first layer of colour down. I haven't blended it yet because I wanted to wait to do it on the video. So I'm going to use the large one first. And as you can see, it's definitely moving the pencil around. So I'm just going around this whole circle and I'm blending the pencil into itself, and also moving the pencil around so it goes into the tooth of the paper, which will give it a very seamless finish because you won't be able to see any of the little white spots. So now I've finished that, I'm going to come around, and what I want to talk to you very briefly about when I'm doing this is that when you're drawing anything, it doesn't matter what you're drawing, there is always a light source. So you get the light from one direction and then the opposite side has shadows. So I'm actually going to pretend that my light is coming from here and it's coming down there like that. So this is the light. So this section here is actually going to be the brightest section because the light's going to be directly hitting it. So I kind of eyeball where the centre spot would be and start from just after that. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to draw a very quick circle around like that. Now we know that that whole section there that's got the dark colour of the pencil down, this is going to be the darkest section. So I'm now going to start colouring this in. Now I'm using circular motions. So I'm just very slowly doing my small circular motions, going around the circle. So I am and then I'm going to come back over with the lighter one. So blending with the pencil actually helps the pencil to go into the tooth of the paper. So you can see that the first couple of layers of blending. So I'm now going to come back in again with a darker one. And the very dark edges need to go in the darkest area of the shadow, which will be central on the opposite side to where the light's actually hitting the ball. So I'm still adding pencil. I'm going to come back in again with this lighter colour and then, so that this bit doesn't look quite as pale as the rest of it, I'm actually going to add slightly more colour. Now another way that you can actually lighten up or make an area seem really bright is once you've got a few layers down like this, you can either use a little bit of white to go over the brightest area, which will then make that a highlight. So you can see that area now is brighter, and then I'm going to come down just a small bit with the white down onto the first sections of the blended mid and dark colours, because this is actually a really good way of softening up the edges and making it look really crisp. Now, another way that you can actually get highlights from something would also be to use an eraser, and I've got my Tombow Mono Zero eraser here, and what I actually want to do is, so another way of actually slightly altering a blended area is to use an eraser, and for this demonstration I'm using my Tombow Mono Zero eraser. So I'm just actually going to go around the edge, and I'm just softening up the edge here, just where the sun or the light is going to be hitting it the most. And that just softens the edge up just a tiny bit, like this. You can use any eraser for this technique. I just quite like the Tombow because it's quite small and neat. So you can see there that the line that was quite bold at the edge has now softened up nicely, and It now looks like light would be hitting it. Like that. So, and if you wanted a really bright highlight, so the highlight would be around here. So what you can actually do is you can pull some of the colour out like that. I always work in circular motions when using an eraser, because I find that you don't leave sort of sharp lines when you're erasing stuff either. So there you go. So you've got the very dark colour around the edge, then you're blending the dark colour with the initial base coat, adding another layer of the base coat all the way around it, and then just keeping on adding slightly darker, blending it out with the mid-tone, adding slightly darker, adding the mid-tone again, and then here you're adding white to make it nice and bright and vibrant where the light's hitting it, and you're also creating a highlight. So there are all the different ways that you can actually blend, and also when you're layering pencils and blending the layers that you've included. And there's the range of different materials available to blend with. I find that the silicone colour shapers and blending the pencil with actual pencil itself are the two best ways of doing it. One thing that is very obvious during this demonstration is that if you draw in straight lines, it doesn't make a difference how well you actually blend things out. The lines will always show. Whereas if you work in circular motions and then you blend the circular motions out with a tool or whatever it happens to be, it blends out much, much smoother than it does if you use lines. So there you go, that's how I blend out, the range of different tools available to blend out, and how to layer colour so it looks seamless. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And if you press the grey notification bell next to the subscription button, you will be notified every time I post a new video. Thanks for watching.